Welcome. I'm Mike Chastain, Children's Director here at Victory Church, and I'd love to invite you to like and subscribe below so that you never miss any content that we post here on the YouTube channel. And without further ado, the message you actually came here to see.
I love this passage, by the way, because I have a feeling that there's that one phrase, wives, submit to your husbands, and you're like, okay, what kind of gymnastics is he going to do today? How do we get around this subject, or how do we deal with it? How do we work through it? Because that's a really tough one, and the words like echoing in my ears often are my sister. From my sister, my oldest sister, when I got to do her wedding was the very first wedding that I had the opportunity to preach at. I was a vicar at the time, and she wanted me to preach at the wedding, and she just looked at me, and her only thing was, "You better not say obey." That's all she said. And I'm like, that was her boom on me. I'm like, and I really wasn't planning on it, but I was like, all right, yes, ma'am, or we're not going to do that. But the discussion today, we're talking about community. We're talking really, it's not just about that first phrase. So sometimes you have a hard time kind of getting through. But we're talking about family, and we're talking about the family life, and we're talking about work life. And as you think about community rehab, and you think about the community in which you live, today's topic and message today really is one of the toughest ones because it's one of the messiest ones. Because we can talk about the community, we can talk about our church community, but what's the community that you live in most? Home and work. And both can be extremely messy. Because we can fake a lot of things for the community around us, but it's in those places where who you are and who the people you are around you can really kind of come out. And how do we work in that, and how do we change that so that's a reflection of Christ, that's a reflection of grace and peace in our homes, in our workplace, and how it builds out from there. And so today, I just think about my mom. My mom is a retired school teacher, and she would often say, I remember her remarking on certain children, and she could always tell who had a chaotic home life, because it always showed up in the classroom. She could always tell, okay, which kid is bouncing between homes, because parents are divorced for whatever reason, but they're divorced, and so they spend a weekend here or a weekend there, and she could just tell. Because on one week, they'll come in rested, homework done, and everything is in a good place, and the next week, everything's awful. They come in tired, and they're worn out, and so they're just kind of bouncing back and forth. And you all know this already. If your home life is a place that you might call a sanctuary for you, that's just that impacts how you're going to go to work and how you live in the world around you. If your workplace is negative and awful, it can impact your home life. And sometimes, unfortunately, we have to live in a messy place where home life and work life are bad. And that is not good for anybody. But when they both can be good, or how to navigate those well. But like I said, it's messy. Because it's messy. Some of you, today is not about how to have the perfect Christian household. A nice painted picture of what it should look like. Because all families are different. All families have different personalities. All different families have different makeups to it. And all have a certain level of pain. And some of you grew up in a house that's full of pain. Some of you are experiencing it even right now, where it just doesn't feel good, or the place where you work is hard. Like, these places can be so filled with energy and love, or they can just suck it all out of you. So again, today is not about constructing the perfect Christian family, because that's impossible. Because are you perfect? Who here's perfect? Okay, we're made perfect in Jesus, but how we act with each other is not perfect. Things happen. Personalities, the dynamics are different. We compare with each other all the time. Well, that looks like a good family. Why can't we be like that family? Well, you don't know what's going on behind closed doors in that family. You don't know how it is there. Again, different personalities, different makeup. My sister, my second sister, my oldest sister, then the next sister, it's the quietest family on the planet. I go into their house and it's like, oh yeah, oh, I can hear the dog walking around the house. They're just quiet. They're just quiet people. My house is loud, extremely loud. When we have family vacations, we bring the fun. We bring the chaos. We bring the energy. Everybody else, every house is different. But so this passage, though, is not about creating something that we can't do. It's not about creating the perfect family. This passage really is about taking the pieces that you have. Because some homes don't have the wife, they don't have the husband, maybe not the kids, and maybe all these different pieces, or some part of it's broken. But it's really about taking the pieces that you have to help create either a healthier culture that's reflective of Jesus at home and at work. You're going to be some guilt in there, by the way. I can't read it and not feel guilty from a husband's perspective. Can't do it. You may feel guilty about things. It just highlights the fact that we're messy. And when we look at it, you may think, well, I don't know what to do with this, but Paul is talking to messy families. He's not talking as a person like this is what you need to do, what you should do, and not experienced and just kind of telling everybody what they should do. He's just talking about messy families, and he's addressing the messy, and you think maybe it's controversial to say, wives, submit to your husbands to do this, do that. But understand the family dynamic that he's talking to in the Roman Empire. You've watched the movies. You've seen the historical epics. You've seen these things. Very patriarchal societies. But in this particular, the Roman Empire, the family dynamic was the husband, the father, was king of his castle, king of the home, arrogant, and allowed to be this way, expected to be this way. And everyone is there to do their bidding. Was it all like this? Probably not, but he's addressing it because that's what they're all living under. And some of you understand that right now. That might be the house you grew up in or are in, where the dad is king. He rules with an iron fist, and everybody there is just to do whatever the husband, the dad wants. He has the power. And what happens is that when you have somebody like that, there's going to be rebellion in the household, right? Nobody likes to live like that. No human being loves to be disrespected. No human being loves to be forgotten. No human being likes to be run over. No human being loves to be dismissed and their ideas are horrible. You just need to do what you're told. Nobody likes that. So what's going to happen? While he may walk around, I'm king, your wife, woman in the household, is probably doesn't like you. Disrespectful, maybe. Talks about it at wherever it may be. But there's rebellion. I'm not going to do. We're not going to work together. Harsh words are going to be exchanged. They will be exchanged. I hate you, I hate you. If you were just if you, it's going to be exchanged. Abuse will happen in some way, shape, or form. Physical, verbal, it happens when you have a dynamic like that. You're done, you're tired, just do what you're told, right? You're going to get abuse. resentment will start to calcify. We'll start to harden hearts against each other. That's why you have all those, you think about the movies you watch, there's always some semblance of murder in there, right? Of a son murdering a father. And you might go, well, how could you do that? Well, if you live like that, and there's only one way to get out, yeah, I'm watching over here. Forrest has got his plot going right now, all right? You're just kidding, Forrest. All right. It's not a house like that. But resentment can calcify. And the whole thing for either the dad or for everybody else is, what can I get out of this life for me? And it's a very selfish lifestyle because it turns into, it's all about, you're not for me, so I have to be. And it becomes all about me and what I can get out of this life now. And then that trickles out to how you are in the rest of society. It's all about you. Like I said, some of you grew up in homes like this. Or are in a home like this right now. What I'm talking about sounds pretty familiar. So some of these things that we talk about here can be upsetting because it doesn't quite make sense. But then there's a key phrase that Paul uses, and the verse before that we just read, the first before it, and we read last week actually, and verse 3, and chapter 3, verse 17 says, "And whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him." In Ephesians, he wrote, before he has almost the exact same conversation in the book of Ephesians. And he says, before he gets into the submit words, he says, submit to one another as you submit to Christ. So there's somebody else who's clearly in charge. And what he's doing right there is he's telling the dads, the husbands, you're not in charge. There's somebody else who is over you. Wives, you're not in charge. There's somebody else who is over you. And the Lord Jesus Christ, which we learned all through Colossians, is supreme, loving, cares for. He is your God who is everything in all, be all, created everything by him, sacrificed himself up for the world, gave his body for the world. Body broken, blood shed for the forgiveness of sins so that we would all be made perfect. Maybe not in action, but when God sees us, he looks at us through his son and goes, that's my boy, that's my girl. Perfect. Because of what Jesus did for us. And that's where this conversation starts. And this whole topic of family and work flows from it. There's this understanding that the goal of our lives is not to get whatever we can out of it. Because all of this world goes away. Every single last bit of it goes away. So our goal isn't to get the most out of it. Because what's the point? What is the point? We also learned in that conversation is that this life that we live in right now will also never be perfect. It will be hard. I used to think, the older I get, the better it'll be. Man, I wish I were a baby in diapers again where somebody just took care of me every day. I wish, because it's hard. And every season of life is hard. There's some level of suffering to it. And so what this life has to offer isn't great. It's really not that great. And in fact, someday, like I said, it'll all go away. And the only things that are going to last forever is your relationship with God through Jesus and the relationships that you have with others through Jesus. That's it. Those are the only things that will last forever. So the important thing, as we talk about family today, the important thing is to not have a life free from suffering, but to get through this life of suffering to a life without it, and doing it together with Jesus leading the way. That this whole family structure that we're going to be talking about today is not about a perfect family structure for you to enjoy now. It's about a family structure. It's a structure of protection to get you from this life to the next, and to do it together, following Jesus as the leader. I like to refer to Jesus in this sense. We know when we say the Apostles' Creed together, I believe in the Father and the what? And the Son, right? I believe in the Son. And if we're all children of God, those who believe in Jesus, if he's the Son and we're sons and daughters, that makes him our brother in the faith, our brother, and he is the firstborn. He is the big brother. And I'm looking over here. I just look over here because I see the brother and his sister. I know there's a big brother there who'll do anything for his little sister. He may not be perfect. He may irritate you a lot, right, Bella? Yes, he has a smile on her face. Yes, he irritates me all the time. But in the end, he will do anything for her. And when danger is coming, when the punishment is coming, when the wrath of God is coming, Jesus is the one who said, I'll take the punishment. Get behind me because I will lead. Get behind me because I'm going to die for you and because I can handle it, because I'm the big brother. Because I'm the only one who can handle the cross and get back up. So get behind me and I will cover you, and I'm going to cover you with my blood and my broken body, and I will take the hit. Seen a lot of older brothers in a bad family take the hit from a bad dad or a bad mom to protect younger siblings. So I would do that. Now, in this case, it's not a bad God or a bad dad, but the punishment's coming. I'm going to take the hit. He is our main protector in all of this and for everyone. And then he looks at the husband, and we're going to get to him first before we get to the wife. And he looks to the husband and says, in the order of things, I made man first, then I made Eve. There's just the given that we stronger, strength, power, whatever it is. It's just the patriarchal society that we saw. And the goal isn't necessarily to get rid of that, but the goal is like, husbands, your job is to be next in line. The next protector. To protect your family. Particularly here in the Roman Empire, and it still exists today all over the world, you've got expectations of you need to protect and care for your family. You're physically stronger, leadership, whatever it may be, you protect the family. That's your role. And you're supposed to love them like Jesus. He says that in Ephesians, but he also says it here. You say, well, he just says love your wives. But the word for love that he uses there is the agape love. We know there's 3 different kinds of love mentioned in the New Testament, and agape and eros and phileo. Eros is, erotic, that's your, he says don't love your wives solely like that, right? Phileo, brotherly love, like Philadelphia. And then agape is just this all-encompassing love that only God can do. And he said, that's how I want you to love your wives and to love your family. To love like that. To die, to sacrifice, to give of yourself for that. Paul would, in Ephesians, would talk about how he would present who died so that we would be made perfect. And so present your wife as being perfect. You're doing everything that you can to protect, to hold up as blameless. So don't have harsh words for her, because this is a valuable person in your life. Don't be the source of damage through your words and through your actions. Instead, protect and lift up. And it's like the first line now of protection to get through this life. You protect your family, to love, to courage, to lead. I've had other women say, well, I don't have much of a problem submitting if I've got a guy to submit to like that. Now, if they're abusive in language, stuff like that, it's a little bit more difficult. But I get it. And then we look at that's a lot of responsibility on the guy. And it's not a goal of hierarchy, you do what I say and you do this. Your job is to protect. As Jesus would say, the Son of Man, he talked about himself, came to serve, not to be served. And we're supposed to love like Jesus, so we serve. We don't look for servants, we serve. So as husbands, that's what you're to do. And then wife, he says, submit then, to your husbands. And that word right there, I know, it's like a difficult one. Submit, obey kind of thing. But when we look at it, submitting is not because women or wives are weak. It's a choice to say, okay, there's an order here, so God put you here, and so I'm going to work with you on this. I'm going to help follow your lead. And it's not a moment of weakness. When God created Adam and Eve, it says a helper. It says Adam needed a helper. And we can look at that and go, okay, he needs somebody to kind of, it sounds like weaker almost, but the word helper is also in reference in the Old Testament and other places to another fellow warrior. Like, I'm in battle in this life. Kings would go find other helpers. Not servants, helpers. And they would go to other nations for other warriors to come alongside and battle together. That's a little bit different, isn't it? Than just a helper. The idea of the helper warrior, to warrior to battle together, to respect, to love, to care for, to see as equals. But at some point in time, somebody has to take point. Somebody has to be the first one into the fray. So guys, be the first one into the fray. Wives, come right up with them because you're together. And Paul puts the load on the man. But to succeed, they need the wife. They need the wife's respect. They need the wife's partnership. And respect them as a response to the love that they get to be cherished by the man. How this works together. Now, I wish I could say I were guiltless in this. This is where you start feeling the guilt part, because I gotta think, have I loved my wife? I can complain about her, man. And not to say it because we do, right? But have I loved her as the way God has wanted me to love her? No, I can think of a lot of different ways. Have I been harsh? Yeah. The words I choose? Yeah. And I can say, well, she hasn't been always nice, and I'm the leader. I'm the leader. My kids take the viewpoint from me. In the household, my boys follow me. You take the lead in the household. Is anybody perfect? No, but that's why we need Jesus in all of this, because life is hard. And we're reminded, wait, he's in charge. This is why we do it. Because Paul said, submit, because it's the fitting thing to the Lord. The Lord, this is fitting to him. We may not like it, but it's fitting to him. And then we go on to children. And it says children, children, like some parents really love this one. But children, obey your parents in everything. All right. Where's my son? All right. Hey, what's up, man? All right. Did you hear this one? All right. Children, obey. This is not because it's my job to point out all the things that you can do for me. Again, in the Roman Empire, it was. You're my servant, so go and obey me in everything I do and don't question me on it. So obey your parents. Obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. And again, protection. Protection. I follow Jesus, and we see the line coming down. Obey me because I'm trying to keep you safe. Obey me not because I want to control your lives and tell you what to do. Obey me because I'm trying to keep you safe. That I've experienced in this life. That as I'm cutting through, Jesus went through life, I'm going through life, I'm pulling you along together, and obey me because I just want to keep you safe. Like, don't touch that stove. Don't do this because it's about your safety and I want to keep you safe because I've had experience in life, I've gotten hurt in life, there's been pain in life, and I know what happens when we don't follow Jesus, and so come on, let's go. So when we say, get up for church in the morning, get up for church this morning, because it's about keeping you safe, about keeping you connected to the Lord, about making sure you're following Him. I don't know how true this stat is anymore. My dad used to love to quote it quite a while ago, but I don't know many families with 3 children anymore, but the stats were if you had a family of 3 children and if both parents went to church, all 3 would eventually stay in the faith, stay in church. And when I say go to church, it's about staying in the faith, not just showing up on a Sunday morning. You stay in the faith. If one parent goes, if the dad goes, 2 go, stay, and if just mom, then 1. Like, dads, you lead the way. Be part of the family because you're showing your children that sleeping in is not an option. Because if you have to choose between church and football, you naturally got to go to football. Because it's entertaining. Because dad does it. The importance of this. So children, obey your parents. And I'm looking around at our young people here in the room. Your brains don't get fully developed until they're 25 years old. And we live in a world today, I see it all the time, we experience it in our school, where the children run the house. And we're expected to do all our decisions according to what they want. And they don't have fully developed brains. Well, I feel like this today. I feel like this. I feel like this. Please give me this. Da, 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 da. And it's like, there's got to be some boundaries. Because you don't have it yet. Like, that's why, when, boys are just kind of inherently stupid. We are. We think we're Superman. We'll go jump off a roof if we think. That's cool. We'll go do something. You need boundaries. There's a reason why insurance companies, for drivers, for young drivers, it's high until they're 25. That's why you can't rent a car until you're 25, because your brains aren't developed until you're 25. So until you're 25, you're really stupid. And after 25, you're just kind of stupid. All right? That's just all of us, maybe self-included. So obey your parents. But then, parents, they're not there to carry out your whims. It says don't provoke your children to anger. Don't exacerbate them. Don't gaslight them. Don't unrealistic expectations. I found this out. My biggest guilt is unrealistic expectations that I've put on my children and getting mad at them for being different than me. How come you don't understand this math problem? How come you don't understand this social studies? I get it. How come you can't see it? I don't see it, Dad. Well, no, then I get angry about it when they're different people. They're not me. There's something else, and God has a future for them that is not mine. So we have to resist the temptation to frustrate them, to put unrealistic expectations on them, or to even to do things that are against their conscience. People, what if my parent tells me to do this and it's wrong? Well, how do you honor your father? I'm supposed to obey, and it's like, you first submit to Jesus. Remember, he's the top line of the chain. Always submit to Jesus first, and then on down. But always encourage your kids, because if you put unrealistic expectations on them, they will get discouraged in this life. So encourage them just as God encourages you. Remember, love your families as Jesus loves you, so encourage them, lift them up, build them up, forgive their sins, help them in life, help them discover who they are in Christ. Encourage them just as God encourages you. Every time you fall, God picks you up. Every time they fall, you pick them up. Now, you might ask yourself right now, well, what if I don't have all these pieces? What if I don't have all these pieces because of an absent father, absent mother, abusive household? You just kind of it's just that mess that we talked about. There's strained relationships, there's all this. Well, in God's provision, it's kind of next man up, next woman up, as he promises us with his wisdom and strength. But he also reminds us that we're not alone. One time somebody asked Jesus, hey, your mom's looking for you. Or didn't say, hey, your mom's looking for you. So who's my mom? Who's my brothers and my sisters? So these are my brothers and my sisters. This is my family. Look around the room today. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, look around the room today. Brothers and sisters right here. Your family is not alone. God provides fathers. God provides mothers. God provides brothers. He provides sisters. God provides when those pieces are missing within the family of Christ. We step in and we take care of each other. And when someone falls, another one steps in. I think about the Israelites getting from Egypt to the promised land and having to go through the Red Sea. Do you think it was just God clearing the path and then Moses standing in front going, come on, everybody? Do you think other people were saying, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go? Come on, you're dragging behind. Let's go, let's go. Yes, of course. Everybody's working together and not just, hey, we got my family. Oh, that one needs help over there. And so we're going to get everybody together to do that. Together. You do it together as family. Some cultures are like that. Look at my mother-in-law and my father-in-law. In the Filipino culture, everybody's a cousin. Everybody's a cousin. Oh, really? I didn't know you were related. Well, we're not really, but he's my cousin. What? And then everybody who is like my in-laws, their age for anybody my son's age, is Lolo and Lola. Every parent of that generation is Lolo and Lola because you take care of each other. Because you've got Lola this and you've got all their names. And if they're a good Lolo or Lola, everyone will give you $5. All right? They don't care because it's just, oh, you're my Filipino kid, $5. It's just like, you're my apo. What does that mean, grandson? You're my grandchildren. Are you really? Oh, there's my Lola. Really? What? No, I didn't grow up with them. It's just, that's the way it is. And the culture then takes care of itself. Like all the Filipino people come over here. They're called balakmayans, which is like the person who, you made it. So now you have a responsibility to take care of those who have none. And so you go back and you send gifts and you send things to help take care of the people who are still in the Philippines. There's this responsibility for that. Some people do it. My in-laws take that very seriously. That you take care of each other. It's Christian community. That you take care of each other. We do that. We take care of each other. And we act accordingly. Leadership, moms, you do that. And we obey and we work together to get everybody through this life. Not for the perfect life here, but to get through a life of suffering to the life with no suffering. And then we have some great advice on workplaces. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because it is really great advice. Some of you are working in your dream job. Some of you are working a job. And some of it's just really crummy. And that goes for all time. One of the curses to Adam and Eve after the fall in the garden, he looked at Adam and said, guess what? Life has now just got hard. The ground is going to be tough. It's not going to just spring up all the things that you need. You're going to have to work the ground. It's going to be toil. It's going to be hard. But you can make it a little bit different. You can get through it. Some work jobs stink, some have crummy bosses, but you can still be a light in a dark place by focusing on working for the Lord. So your role now as a person who is just simply working, Paul writes this, he says, slaves, obey your earthly masters, but slaves right there, just to kind of let you know, it's not necessarily our thinking of what slaves mean, that one, masters, they are not your property. Another translation might call it a bond servant, which is somebody that you pay for work. You make a contract. Okay, I'll work for you for this many years, homes, you may have a home, whatever, but you have bond servants. Obey your earthly masters in everything. Again, not according to your conscience. You're going to submit to the Lord first. You're not going to have to go against your conscience, but obey your earthly masters in everything and do it not only with when their eye is on you, to curry their favor, but with sincerity of heart and reverence for the Lord. By the way, if you're working hard all the time without worrying about who's in charge, usually what happens is you usually rise up, right? You rise up somehow and maybe another job opens up someplace else and you go someplace else, whatever, but you're rising up. He also said, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as if working for the Lord, not for human masters, because God wants you to work hard, so we work for Him. And we do the work for Him. Since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. Again, this place, the stuff we work for here is nothing compared to the inheritance that we have in heaven. He says, it's the Lord Christ you're serving. Anyone who does wrong will be repaid for their wrongs, and there is no favoritism. And it's like that, like, hey, if you got a really crummy boss, don't worry, they're going to get theirs. That's what that feeling is to me, is like, don't worry about it. Something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. Just don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And then masters, and this is a great one to masters, provide your slaves, your bondservants, with what is right and fair. Because you know that you also have a master in heaven. Somebody else is watching you, so if you're a boss, you better get it right. You better treat your employees well. What's right and what's fair. That's it. So you provide a good workplace for the people that are here for you. But then remember, it's not all going to be perfect. Your family will not be perfect. You won't be perfect. The people you work with will not be perfect. The goal is not perfection. The important thing is not to have a life that is perfect, free from suffering, but to get through this life of suffering to a life without it. And doing it together with Jesus. Remember, we submit to Jesus with Him leading the way. And He is our first protector.